This is Udi. Welcome to Prophet V tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to use the Arturia plugin, which actually comes with the Prophet V and the Prophet VS, and you can stack them one on top of the other. We'll concentrate on the Prophet V, and on a separate video, I'm going to cover the VS version. And this is really a great tool. It's a great synthesizer, and it's easy to understand. It's easy to learn. And if you don't know much about synthesis, I'll try and give you some hints here. And you can learn a lot of basic stuff on synthesis in my channel. I have a course running now in my YouTube channel, so check it out. And let's get started. So what do we have here? Prophet comes with two oscillators, oscillator A and oscillator B. And oscillator A can have either sawtooth or a square wave or a combination of them. Let's hear it out. And if you choose the square wave, you can play with the pulse width parameter here. So have a look at the oscilloscope here and see how it actually manipulates the sound. Cool. So if you want to mix between oscillator A and oscillator B, you can use the mixer here, and we can introduce oscillator B to the play. And I can have any combination of all these wave shapes. So let's go back to basic sawtooth and oscillator A for now, and we'll return to the oscillators a little bit later. So now, after we have our basic sound from the oscillator, it goes into the mixer. We can mix between oscillator A and B, and we can introduce some noise. This is a great tool to add some air or some character to sound. And it can also be used for sound design, creating some drum or percussion. Now, one of the very basic elements of any synthesizer is the filter. We have one filter here, and it's a low-pass filter. So you can see that we have the cutoff here, which means that we can change the cutoff frequency. If you look down to the left, you'll see the value itself. You see right now, the cutoff filter is set to whatever frequency, but when I change the value here, you can see it on the bottom there. And you can immediately see here in the analyzer how we are cutting out the high frequencies. So next is the resonance. Resonance is a boost around the cutoff point. So if I have a little bit of a resonance, have a look at the analyzer. So what's the meaning of that? When we are playing or automating the cutoff point, then we can use that resonance as a tool for sound design. So let's do it manually for now, and you can immediately recognize the value of the resonance point. Right, now, the filter does have an envelope, and I think what makes sense is to explain what is an envelope and how it works with the amplifier first. So after we have our sound generated by the oscillators mixed and then goes into the filter, the next stop will be the amplifier. And in order for us to shape the sound in terms of how it evolves over time, we have a concept that is the envelope. An envelope works like this. So when I'm hitting a key right now, whatever key, the sound goes immediately to its maximum value. And when I'm releasing my finger from the keyboard, then sound just stops. Now, if I want to have the sound evolve into its maximum value slower, then I need to play with the attack point. So this is in a time domain. So it will take longer for the sound to evolve, to fade in. Now, when I'm releasing my finger from the keyboard, right now, the sound just stops, right? But I can change that. I can have the release set to a longer time, and the sound will fade away after the amount that is set by the release. And again, you can have a look at the bottom left, and you can see that it is set for just about half a second. Now, in between the attack, which is the amount of time that the sound will take to get it to its maximum value, and the release, we have the sustain period. The sustain is the period that we are just, as long as I'm pressing the key. And I can change that. So basically, right now it is set to the maximum value here, but I can change it to something else. What it means is that right now, when I'm hitting a key, it will take a little bit of time for the sound to build up to its maximum value, and then it will drop into the sustained level. And when I'm releasing my finger from the keyboard, it will take about half a second to the sound to fade away. Now, how much time between the maximum value and the sustain period, it can be set by the decay amount. So right now, what we're saying is that it will take just about 270 milliseconds for the sound to get to its maximum value. And then it will take pretty short time, 5.5 milliseconds, but I can have that longer, let's say 10 milliseconds, for the sound to decay into its sustained level. It will stay at that level, whatever that's pretty, close to 50%. Let's set it to 50%. And then when I'm releasing my finger, it just fade away. Let's hear it. So have a look here and see that the sound goes into its maximum value and then drops. So if the decay is very short, then we'll get a clicking effect because we're getting into our maximum value and then dropping to the sustained level. And then we have the release. So I can do all kinds of very interesting settings here. For example, let's try that. And we can play with the oscillators to get some other sounds. So that's the idea of the envelope. And we can go back to our normal setting here. So what's the meaning of an envelope on the filter? That's also interesting because right now we have the cutoff set here on that value, which is 530 hertz, which means I'm cutting off all the high frequencies above that point. But I can have that sort of automated or shaped by the filter envelope. And let's see what that means. So if I'm just, cranking the attack here, so what will happen is, have a look at the analyzer. Of course, I need to introduce the envelope here. And you can see that I'm opening the filter and then closing back. So in effect, I'm using the same concept here. It will take the filter a little bit of time to get to this point here, right? And then I can set the release differently, for example, like this. So it will take a little bit of time for the cutoff to close. And again, the decay will define how much time would it take for the filter to get into its sustained value after it was in its maximum value. So let's see that. So that's the basic idea. Again, I have a course on synthesis, and if you want to know more about envelopes and all kinds of things that you can do with envelopes and filters, check it out in my channel. So moving forward with the options here. Now, one of the options that are very interesting here in Prophet is that you can sync oscillator A and oscillator B. So in effect, when I'm doing that, I'm using oscillator B to modulate oscillator A. We can see that. Let's just select something simple here. And I can also get oscillator B all the way down. So this will create other options in terms of sound design, just using oscillator B to influence how oscillator A behaves. Now, one other thing that I can do here with the oscillators is change the bass frequencies. So right now, when I'm playing whatever note, we are in sync with the oscillator, meaning when I'm playing, for example, a C note, then it sounds like a C note, and it is coupled with my keyboard. But I can have each of these oscillators tuned differently. So let's see what we can do with that. We can have, for example, both of these oscillators working, and one of them will be an octave up. You can again have a look at the bottom left, and you can see that the oscillator B is tuned 12 semitones up. And I can also introduce a little bit of noise. And we can also have some other tuning here. For example, I can have it, let's say, 4 semitones up. So this is a way, you can create some chords. Very, very cool. I can tune it differently for even lower. Right. Now, the other cool thing that you can do with Prophet is to use the poly mode. And what it means is I can use my filter envelope or oscillator B to manipulate either my frequency settings here for oscillator A, my pulse width for oscillator A. So in effect, I'm actually working on that button here. And I can also manipulate the filter cutoff point. So let's see it in action. So in order for me to do that, I can use oscillator B as a low frequency oscillator, LFO. And I can actually shut it down here so we don't hear it. And let's get rid of the noise. And let's get some oscillator B into play. So in effect, what we're doing is we're using oscillator B to just go up and down in the in that shape, in the shape of a triangle, up and down, and just moving the cutoff up and down. Now you did see that I turned off the keyboard here. Now this is a keyboard lock, so right now when I'm using oscillator B as a modulator for other things, I don't want to have it connected to my keyboard. I don't want it to be affected by the notes that I'm playing, but I can actually play with that on as well. And what it means is that if I'm playing high notes, it will have a other effect than when I'm playing lower notes. So we can see that when this is turned on, when I'm playing low notes, the oscillation is slower. And when I'm playing high notes, the oscillation is faster. And I can also use the same method to just manipulate my pulse width if the square waveform here is turned on. Maybe that's too much. And I can also affect the frequency of oscillator A. So let's hear that. Very cool. So next, we have some very nice and interesting ways we can use the mod wheel, and this is in effect using the LFO here. So we have the LFO. The LFO is a low frequency oscillator. It oscillates, but you don't really hear it. We are using it to just change one of these parameters. So we can actually use the LFO to change the frequency of oscillator A, B, the pulse widths of A and B, and the filter cutoff point. So let's see what that does. So first of all, I can have it sync to my host. Right now I'm using Cubase and I'm running 120 ppm, so it's synced. And when I'm changing the rate, it's in accordance. But I can have it freely, just as hertz. So let's cut the poly mode back off, and let's see what happens when I'm changing the mode wheel here. So right now, when I'm changing the mode wheel, when I'm pushing it up, I'm actually manipulating the frequency of oscillator A in the rate that is set by my LFO and in the shape. So that's the idea here. I can also use the same method here to change the filter cutoff or the pulse width. So let's get that into play. So you can already see that using different shapes will give you different effect. If you're using the sawtooth, then you're ramping and then dropping. And if you're using the triangle, then it's more smooth. And if you're using the square, then you have an on and off kind of thing. That's the idea here. Now, in effect, you can have Prophet also use Unison. And Unison, what it means is that we are introducing more voices tuned to the same note, but slightly off key. And that will create a wider or a whole kind of sound. Let's hear it. And let me get rid of this, back off. And get the volume a little bit down. We also have a tuning button here. Well, in the actual hardware, when it was getting hotter or used for a long time, then it would get out of tune. So you can just hit the note here and tune the unit in accordance. So we don't really need that in the plugin, but it's here to just emulate the real hardware. Now, what more? We can also have some glide here. So let's see how that works. And we can get rid of the Unison. And we have two modes here. We have legato and we have the on. The on is the normal way. And if we have legato, we're just always sliding into the next note. And we also have a pitch bend range here. Right now it's set to plus minus 6 semitones, but I can have it tuned, let's say 12 semitones up and down. And finally, we also have some other utility knobs here or buttons. We have the volume. We have the release here. The release means that we are actually following the amplifier release settings. And we have a hold. What it does, it's actually interesting, when it's on, every note will just keep on playing. So if I'm playing a chord, the three notes or whatever, how many notes I played, will just be playing together, and I can leave my finger off the keyboard. And we have a legato, which means that we are actually following the envelope. What I suggest is you need to play with that in order to appreciate what it actually does. And if you're still not sure, read the manual. It is explained there. So that's pretty much it. Let me just have a look here. Yeah, the cool add-on to the actual synthesizer is it's this effect unit here. So we have a chorus and we have an analog delay. Let's hear that. So I'm adding a chorus. And I have a delay. So this is the dry wet. We have some time settings. We have feedback. And that's pretty much it. So I hope this was useful for you. If you liked this video, then just hit like. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, as I'm uploading more and more tutorials. I'm trying to do that almost every week. And so see you soon. Thank you.